The nerve center and nucleus of any business is the ability to acquire a customer. It's the heartbeat of hope for profits and potential. Because, let's face it, at the end of the day, business is all about people and the ability to connect with them on a personal and individual basis. You may have the best business idea in the world, but if you don't establish a market, then your idea is about as good as the paper or computer screen it's written on. And according to Zippia, there is indeed a tangible correlation between the retention and the acquisition of a customer. The publication reports that 18% of businesses focus primarily on customer retention over acquisition. Meanwhile, 44% of companies do indeed prioritize customer acquisition, while the remaining 38% attempt to strike an equal balance between the two. Zippia also says that acquiring a new customer can cost 6 to 7 times more than it does to retain them. Nightenhelser is a client quality consultant who helps businesses acquire more high-end clients, which in turn will help their business be more attractive to more quality people. It's all in an effort to allow small business owners to find more joy in their business and to be ethically allowed to charge more. And Nightenhelser joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Drake, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm super excited to talk to you this morning about small business and customer acquisition. Happy Wednesday to you, and thank you so very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Drake, you've got a very interesting 9 to 5 as a client quality consultant where you go in and you help businesses and entrepreneurs acquire customers so that they can achieve more joy in their business. So I'm wondering if we can start our conversation by you telling me who you are, my friend, and what makes you so fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the nice introduction. It all started back in 2016 when I took my first sales job. I took over a one-man sales department for a 7-figure vehicle wrap company, and really quickly noticed that we were selling some jobs that maybe weren't taking us in the direction that we wanted to, selling work that was, getting under our team's skin. And, that being in the sales department, I realized that I could affect some change. So I started being a little bit more particular about who we sold to, what we sold to them, things like that. And over the course of 3 years, we were able to actually see that transform the business and take us in a direction that we didn't really see as a possibility before then. So after 3 years, I left and moved into the high ticket sales space and sold a couple things like marketing services and business opportunities, divorce coaching, things like that. But during that time, I spent a lot of internal time kind of digesting what we'd done in those 3 years, and really trying to understand the power of it. And what I do now is I take that experience and I help small business owners learn how they can identify what a good client actually means for them, not from what they want, but from what the business needs. And help build the business around their strengths so that they're naturally working with clients who are easier to deliver results for, easier to work with. Just that brings a lot more ease and removes a lot of the stress from the business, because they're not trying to like push through their weaknesses anymore. And really, it's not just about the profits. Profits are a wonderful thing because when we make more profits, we can really pay people what they're worth. But it's also about how everyone experiences their day to day in the company as well. That really changes.
Yeah, and just building on that, Drake, I'm curious to get your 2 cents on what are some common steps that any business owner or entrepreneur can take to sort of acquire that more high ticket customer. What are some easy steps that any entrepreneur can take in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. So step one is really, I think when we look at customer acquisition, it's important first to address that more customers aren't always better. It's not necessarily more customers, it's more of the right customers for your business, because who you bring on into your business really determines what kind of business you have. You can kind of determine the quality of a business by looking at the quality of its clients. And so step one is getting clear on who the right customers are for you, and developing the habit of saying no to customers who don't match that. Because as we say no to more of the customers who aren't a great fit, we actually start to buy ourselves the ability to say yes to more of the customers who are. Step number two is going to be to raise your standards for how you operate. A lot of businesses tend to look at how they're doing in regards to their competition. I would invite them to start competing with themselves and just consistently raising that bar, because when you do, you actually end up serving your clients on a level that a lot of your competition can't or don't know how to compete with. And that just really positions you powerfully in your marketplace as the clear go-to company.
Absolutely. And Drake, you also work with businesses to find sort of a way for them to get more ethically comfortable of raising their prices and rates, and that all comes with sort of finding their right customers. So talk to me about ethically being comfortable with raising their expectations from a price perspective.
That is a wonderful topic. Ethically raising prices is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot of time with small businesses, and for a lot of years when I was working in the ranks of small businesses, I didn't really understand why they didn't pay people better. It wasn't until I got into the decision-making room that I started to realize that it's not that they don't want to, it's that they can't, because the money's not there, because the profits aren't there. And ethically raising your prices is all about delivering more results and a higher level experience for your clients. Results and experience are the two primary things that they're buying from you. So if you can take what you do from delivering level 2 results and ratchet it up to like a level 8 on those results, because we're delivering more, we can now ethically charge more. And then when we turn around and do the same thing with how they experience us, and really, anticipating their needs more and things like that, we put ourselves in a really good situation to be able to ethically charge more and be doing a service that people are happy to pay that extra. They don't feel like they're being gouged.
Yeah, and Drake, I'm gonna share just a bit about myself, buddy. I, outside of hosting this podcast, help businesses sort of elevate their game in terms of creating a more inclusive culture for folks with
Mm-hmm.
disabilities. Because I have a disability myself. I was born with cerebral palsy, and it's important to me to help businesses level the playing field from an inclusive perspective. So talk to me about how taking an inclusive approach can be a competitive advantage for business. What do you think the keys are there?
Yeah, I think the key there is really focusing on people's strengths rather than highlighting their weaknesses. I think that or perceived weaknesses. A lot of the times we tend to focus on what people can't provide us and use that as the criteria for whether or not we think they'd be a good fit for us, rather than looking at their strengths and trying to find a home for that strength in our business. And we all have a powerful gift to share with the world based on our experiences and the things that have shaped us in life. And for some people, that gift may come from a little bit more of a natural place. But I think for a lot of people, their greatest gifts come from the greatest struggles that they've endured. So I think that around that, there are a lot of people whose strengths are being overlooked. And those are actually some of the most rare strengths that we can actually leverage in our business and bring to the playing field in a way that you probably can't get other places.
Yeah, absolutely. And Drake, I don't need to tell you that no matter what business you're in, it's all about connecting with people and building relationships. So, what do you think is the key to effectively building relationships, which can also lead to sustainable business opportunities?
Yeah. So when it comes to, um, I'm sorry, I blanked there. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was just curious to ask you about the process of building relationships and what goes into doing that process effectively.
Oh yeah. Number one, be yourself. Don't try and be something you're not when you're building relationships. Um, when we are when we really just be ourselves around other people, we allow them to see the little things about ourselves that are valuable, that they don't have, that can help them in a very natural way. So just being yourself is really important. I would also say focusing on your strengths is really big. I think a lot of people try to build relationships and businesses by focusing on their weaknesses. For me, for a long time, I tried to become successful in spite of who I was instead of because of who I am. And when you bring that energy into the relationship building game, it really just kind of leaves people more confused about how to build a relationship with you. Um, so um, when you try to build relationships by trying to, I guess, be something you're not, it may work, but you're going to be miserable doing it.
Yeah, just because you sparked my interest in your last answer, I'm curious to ask you how growing into yourself as a business leader and the process that you had to go through to do that in terms of being comfortable in your own skin as a person to excel both personally and professionally. What parts of that journey stick out to you?
Yeah, so I think it starts with out of high school, spending about 10 years jumping around from job to job, trying to find a home and trying to find success and being frustrated when things didn't work out the way that I thought they would. And it took me a long time to realize that I had manicured this idea of who I thought I should be and what I thought success should look like. And when I let go of that preconceived vision and just said, you know what do I actually enjoy? What about a job makes me enjoy it? What about a job makes me not enjoy it? What's fun for me? What taps into the things that I enjoy? And started looking at going after jobs through that lens. I started to find jobs that actually tapped into my strengths, and that was how I landed in sales. And all of a sudden, my gift of gab had a purpose, and all of a sudden, my writing and communication skills were able to shine through, and combining that with being in a performance based environment. As far as pay goes, I started to literally see the results of that in just a few months. And that was really when things shifted in my head. And I was like, huh. And it was really interesting because while I was achieving all this success that I had never experienced before, it was really confusing at the time because it didn't feel hard. Like I was like, isn't this supposed to be like really difficult and miserable? And it wasn't. And
Well, I tell you, you know, Drake, I'm Canadian, so I'll give you a Canadian sports analogy, my friend. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, and Drake, tell me, how do you classify an innovative business? What comes to mind when you think about innovation in business?
At its heart, innovation is really about learning how to improve our product or service in business by focusing on building up around our strengths. I see a lot of companies that go out and try to improve by mimicking their competitors. And then a lot of times they're just kind of left wondering why it didn't work or why they didn't get the same level of results. And I think one of the reasons it's so easy for me to see that is because I spent so many years trying to be successful in spite of who I was instead of because of who I was. And I think I see that similar um, process taking place for a lot of business owners. So I would really say that innovation is about figuring out what your strengths are and building up around those. It's not a, I would also say that in the realms of innovation, I think that a lot of companies try to perpetually innovate. I think there's a time and a place for innovation, but I think that it's kind of like an 80-20 game, like 80% of the time trying to nail the basics and do the stuff that's not so sexy in business really well consistently day in and day out, and then 20% of that time really focusing on innovating around your strengths.
Yeah, and I know you spent some time helping organizations sort of capture the top spot in their industry and become an industry leader. And I know that you have your 7 steps to landing better clients. So I'm wondering if we can tackle both of those questions at once this morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's start with how do we land or how do we become a top industry leader? What do you think the keys are there?
Yeah, so the keys to really rising above your competition and becoming the go-to company in your market is really about I keep saying this, but it's about building around your strengths. When you build around your strengths, you start delivering results that are incomparable to your competitors who are trying to do the same thing the same way everyone else is. But the other thing that starts to happen is it gets easier and sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, we were just talking about becoming an industry leader and the steps that are required to do that effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for getting me back on track there. As far as the 7 steps go, the 7 steps, step one is what I call best payday. This is something that I learned from a guy named Frank Kern, and he's done, gosh, I think close to $100 million in sales now in his career. But best payday is really getting clear on what product or service in your business taps into your strengths the most and also provides the most value to your clients. When we do that, we're naturally gonna find the one product in our business that is not only going to allow us to grow the business with the most ease, but it's also going to do that by providing the most results for the least effort to our clients. Step number 2 is what I call your best buyer. Again, this is something that I learned from Frank Kern, but this is really getting clear on who gets the most from your strengths and is therefore willing to pay more and is by nature easier to deliver results to. Step 3 is focusing your messaging. A lot of people are talking about themselves on their website or in their marketing, but when we shift our messaging and start talking about the best buyer and using our messaging as it relates to that best buyer, we start to attract people who match that and start to repel people who do not. A lot of people start to self-identify that, maybe they're not the best fit for you when they're not, and you just naturally start to see better clients come your way. Step number 4 is all about forward-facing transparency. When we're really transparent about things like who we work with and who we don't, what work we do, what work we don't, what our prices look like, what needs our product or service does meet and which ones it doesn't, because not every business is a perfect fit for everyone. When we're really clear about this with our marketplace, it starts to not only create trust, but it's also a process of us learning how to implement boundaries in our business. And as we do that, we're able to start working with a smaller group of people that we're much more specifically capable of helping in a powerful way because of our strengths. And that's when we're able to start really manicuring what we do to deliver outsized results that our competitors could never even dream of being able to do. Step number 5 is what I call reimagining your policies. So this is really about shifting our market's perception about us and showing them that we are confident and capable and that we put their needs first, instead of showing them that we lack confidence and that we'll throw them under the bus, because a lot of us unintentionally do that with our policies. So there are like really 3 primary types of policies. One are policies that are designed to protect us from the client. And this is what a lot of people kind of tend to do. A good example of this would be, when a store says that returns are store credit only, that shows me that they're more concerned about protecting that money than treating me in a way that makes me want to come back and spend it again. The second type of policy are policies that are designed to protect you from each other. These are kind of a good middle road, but an example of this would be like the conditional guarantee. So if you show up and do all the work and show me that you really put in the effort, and you still don't get the results, then I'll give you your money back, right? Third type of policy is a policy that's designed to protect the client from you. And this is really the most powerful one. When we shift our policies to focus around protecting the client from you, this is where it really showcases your confidence in yourself and the fact that you're willing to put their needs first. And an example of this would be, when I was selling vehicle wraps, we had a design guarantee. So while all of our competitors were saying, design is $150, you get three initial designs, you pick one, then you get 3 revisions, and after that, we're going to start charging you by the hour. We just said, hey, design is $500, but we're going to send you 4 initial concepts and design till you're happy, period. That's it. It really showcases a lot more confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, I'm also curious to ask you about gauging success in business from a growth standpoint. What do you think the key is to gauging success when we want to grow a business? Because I know it's different for every business depending on what you're selling and how big you are, right?
Yeah. So, um, gauging success for me is really all about knowing what your long-term vision for the business is and being aware of whether you're building in that direction. I think a lot of business owners tend to spend their time chasing rather than building. They're always worried about getting more leads and what their marketing is doing and getting more sales. And these are all really important things. But when we spend all of our time in kind of like a nose down pursuit of these things, we have a tendency to look up one day and kind of wonder how we ended up where we are. But when we have the vision that we know we're working towards, and we're looking down at those things, but regularly looking back up to check in and make sure that we're on the right path, we tend to end up in a much nicer place. So successes in business for me is all about, revenue and sales and things like that are really great milestones. But the true indicator is, is your business becoming what you actually want it to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one of the things you also focus on when you talk and work with business people is the importance of the basics of business and really drilling down on the importance of really the ABCs of business. So tell me why the basics of business are so important and why business owners should be reminded of those as well.
Yeah. So I think the first time this really came to my attention, probably about 6 months into selling vehicle wraps, I started asking folks, hey, would you mind sharing why you decided to go with us? And the answer started to kind of astound me. People would tell me things like, yeah, because you picked up the phone when I called. And I was like, what? Well, of course we did. What do you mean? And they were like, yeah, I called like 10 companies, only 3 of them picked up, and most of them didn't even return my voicemails. And other people said things like, you made me feel like you want my business. The other companies didn't really do anything to show me that they actually wanted my money. And that started me down a really interesting of questioning and learning. And I started to realize that, as human beings, we tend to really want in our lives, and especially as business owners, we tend to be creative types, and we like the excitement and like kind of like the sexiness, so to speak, of tinkering and building and creating. And we want to chase that next thing and that next innovation and that next product and that next service. But the things that actually build the business and keep the business running and separate you from your competition in a large way are whether or not you're nailing the basics. Are you picking up the phone all the time? Are you responding to every email? If you tell a prospect that you're going to follow up at this day on this time, are you actually calling it that day on that time? It's the little details like that that aren't necessarily fun, but when you really focus on doing those things well consistently every day, that's the start of pulling away from your competition and putting yourself in a league of your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Drake, I asked you earlier in our conversation about how to build an inclusive culture. And I wanted to follow up quickly with the idea of establishing diversity in business on a broader scale. So when we talk about diversity and having diversity in business or in your approach to business, what do you think that means to you?
Um, I think diversity is all about truly looking for the best way to accomplish things and not being stuck inside of your preconceived under like perception of what is a good answer or what is a good person for this role. And when we step outside that preconceived lens that we have, that's when we're able to actually start seeing how to be more inclusive in our business by focusing on people's strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Drake, I'm a big believer in sort of finding our inner center as business people in terms of when everything comes crashing down in a business. It's kind of like going back to the basics of being ourselves and why we started the business in the first place. So I'm curious, for you, what's it mean to go back to your inner center and finding your happy place in business?
Ooh, people are a really big part of my happy place in business. Another key for me is to not make it about the money. I heard somebody once say, I don't do this for the money. I need money to do this. And, that really spoke to me. Uh, I've I've always found it difficult to perform, to stay engaged, and to stay happy when I'm doing something for the money. For me, it needs to really be intellectually stimulating. It needs to be about something that I care about, and it needs to be something that's important to me. It also needs to encompass regular learning. If I stop learning, I get bored, and then I start engaging in some destructive behaviors. Playing lots of video games and just things that aren't good for us.
Well, I tell you, there's a sign in my office upstairs that says, "Life is a constant game of learning," isn't it?
Oh yeah, and it's a lot more fun when you consistently engage in that game.
Well, in my view, learning is growing, and growing is sharing and learning, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And to that point, Drake, I'm curious to ask you, why do you think entrepreneurship is a great tool to help people sort of get more comfortable with being pushed out of their comfort zone and take more chances? So, why do you think entrepreneurship is a great way to sort of push ourselves out of our comfort zone?
Um, I think the successes that we achieve in life externally and things like business are a reflection of the internal. The greatest challenge for me and the thing that really pushes me more than anything else is not doing the things in the business that grow the business or executing on it or even learning the new tactics or strategies or skills in the business. It's becoming a version of myself that is capable of utilizing those things in a way that actually generates the results that I need it to. So I think that if you want to be a business owner, uh, there's nothing you can choose in this world that will push you more to grow as a person, to heal from your past, and to uh, connect with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Drake, my final question for you is how I end all of my podcasts. And that's by asking you, when you look at your personal and professional legacy, how do you want that to be defined?
Oh man, that is something I have spent a lot of time thinking about over the years. Um, I think when I think about legacy, there's an individual that comes to mind that I've really always looked up to. Are you familiar with John Maxwell?
I am, yeah?
So I first discovered John Maxwell probably about 15 years ago, and the way he really just spreads powerful and positive change in the world from a place of joy and gratitude, and he does it by focusing on people, and behaving in a way where the profits are only a byproduct of all those other things. Like they're a byproduct, they're not the goal. The goal is to help the people and to change. I think that's how I'd like to be remembered. My goal is to do something similar.
Yeah, absolutely. And Drake, finally, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for anybody who's interested in learning more about the 7 steps, I do have a training. So I have a couple things for you. I have a training that they can go through that takes them through the first 2 steps of the 7 steps, and it's something that they can learn, they can implement in their business today. I'm a really big believer in showing people that you can help them by actually helping them, and not just telling them that you can. Um, so that's available for everyone. I also have a book that's going to be coming out that goes into the 7 steps in a lot more depth. So if they want to get on the waiting list for that, they can go. Oh, I'm sorry. The domain for the training is profitcollective.vip/3 simple steps. The number 3 simple steps. If they want to get on the waiting list for the book, that's profitcollective.vip/book. And if somebody has any questions or just wants to reach out and connect about what I do, or if they just have some questions about whatever it is, they can reach me in my email, which is drake@modernsalesecosystem.com.
Fantastic. Well, Drake, I want to thank you for the work that you do to diversify our perspective on business and acquiring customers. My friend, your work in this space and time on my behalf is most appreciated. And I want to thank you for getting up early for me this morning and engaging in conversation. It's most appreciated.
Absolutely, and thank you for doing what you do. One of the most valuable things we can access as business owners and as people is information that can help us improve. And you getting on here every day and doing what you do and making sure that that information is going around and getting to the people that it needs to go to is very admirable.